Hello YouTubers. This video is probably by far the most or one of the most important videos I have ever done. So please watch it fully. It is that important. And although it's not primarily about hunting, it definitely does have something to do with hunting because it can affect it. The first thing I'm going to do is go over something that I think too many people have forgotten. The Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Let's break that down. Okay, a well-regulated militia. That does not mean the National Guard or the Army or the Air Force or Navy or Marines or Coast Guard or any of that. It means the people assembled together, armed, to take care and defend their country. It's already been ruled on. So there's no disputing that. People say that's controversial. Well, no, it's not, because it's been ruled on. Okay, so that part is necessary to the security of a free state. We have to take care of our security. Anything we've added, such as National Guard, Army, Air Force, and so on, that's stuff we've chosen to add. It is not something that is separate from us. We chose to add that so we wouldn't have to constantly be securing our country all the time. We could live, go to work, enjoy our time off, and so on. Now, that's the first part. A lot of people break this down into two parts. Okay, the right of the people to keep and bear arms. That means keep and show or display shall not be infringed. Okay? This phrase right here is the most stomped on phrase of the entire Constitution, out of everything. There's nothing to interpret. It's not controversial. It says exactly what it means, and it was written that way on purpose. It means you, I, and all of us, we have a right to keep our arms and bear them if necessary. And no one, including government, has a right to step on that in any way, shape, or form. None whatsoever. Okay, now that I've got that out of the way, I mean, it's preliminary, but it's important because this whole thing rests on that. Okay. Now, this is going to be about Oregon Measure 114. Coming up on the November 8th, 2022 election. It's a midterm election, but it's one of the issues that pertains to our state. So I don't know how many of you that watch my channel are Oregonians, but please pay attention because you can act on this. You can make it or break it. This measure, 114, must be defeated. I love using visual aid. The measure has to go down. It shouldn't have even come up in the first place. And I'm sure you figured out by now that this is about gun control. Our current governor here in Oregon, Kate Brown, cannot run again. This is it. This is her last hurrah. It's more like a last puke for us. But anyway, she's not too popular here in Eastern Oregon. Maybe in Western Oregon where there's more wackos. But I'm not saying that everyone in Western Oregon's a wacko. But it seems like the lunatics seem to gather in that area, especially in Multnomah County, which includes Portland. And this is kind of her way, I think, of firing a parting shot on her way out. We have some interesting candidates running for governor this year. We could actually turn red. We've been blue for a long time. Not our choice out here in Eastern Oregon. This is red country as far as politics go. I know this video is political, but it's important and it does affect hunting. It affects the very core of hunting, gun ownership, and obtaining guns for that purpose and other purposes. The Second Amendment is not about hunting, but this measure will affect hunting as well as any other use of a firearm, period. Now, each time we have an election here in Oregon, we get one of these. It's a voter's pamphlet. It has information on measures, candidates, and so on. It's not supposed to be biased. It's supposed to display the measure, like in the case of a measure, they display the measure, result of a yes vote, result of a no vote, summary of what the measure is about, estimate of financial impact, and of course it gives you the committee members that were on the committee, and then it goes and has arguments in favor and arguments against. And like with the candidates, it'll show various candidates for governor, city council, whatever. And this is not supposed to be biased, like I said, but in the past there's been times where certain candidates have been mysteriously omitted from this. Strange. So, interesting how that happens. So, what it says here, it says, Measure 114 requires permit to acquire firearms. That's right, you heard me. Requires permit to acquire firearms. Police maintain permit firearm database. Criminally prohibits certain ammunition magazines. That's this part right here. Now, summary, it says, Oregon law currently allows persons over age 18 to acquire firearms, 21 for some handgun purchases. The seller or transferor must request criminal background check. You gotta have a background check. Measure requires permit from the measure requires permit from local law enforcement to acquire firearms. If it's passed, person must pay fee, submit photo ID, fingerprints, complete approved safety training, pass criminal background check. I mean, that's the stuff I had to do to get my concealed carry permit, okay? This is just to buy a gun, period. So even if you're just buying a shotgun to go hunting, you got to go through all this garbage. Anyway, you have to be shown to not be prohibited from possessing firearms. Officer may deny permit or deny permit to person believed danger to himself and others. That sounds awfully subjective to me. What if the officer has a bad day? What if he doesn't get laid the night before? You know, what if him and his wife have a fight or he's being divorced and he just thinks the world owes him and he's pissed off at everybody? You're probably not going to get your permit. Permits issued within 30 days, valid for 5 years, which means you have to renew them and probably go through all this garbage again. Permit denials are appealable. Yeah, I don't know how that works. Must present permit, pass background check to acquire firearm. So anyway, you got to go through all this background garbage just to get the permit in the first place, and then you got to present the permit and do another background check to get the firearm. Talk about redundant idiocy. Okay. Also, the police will maintain a permit firearm database. That, folks, is a gun registry. I don't care what you call it, that's a gun registry. There's no two ways about it. That is what that is. This so much violates the phrase shall not be infringed. I mean, this is the complete definition of infringement. Magazines over 10 rounds will be prohibited, or readily modifiable to, you can't have a 10-round magazine or anything over 10 rounds, or anything that's modifiable to exceed 10 rounds. Exception for current owners / inheritors. Exceptions for law enforcement, armed forces, criminal penalties, other provisions. I mean, can you see the problem here? Say an 18-year-old wants to take up pheasant hunting. This not even have to do with tyranny or anything. He just wants to go pheasant hunting. He's got to have a gun. So he goes to buy a gun, and he has to go through all this rigmarole just to get a shotgun to shoot at pheasants. Talk about garbage. And if you want to defend your house, I mean, well, and that's not all of it. I mean, that's just a brief summary. Interesting thing about this is all these measures in here, the different measures, they'll have like, the arguments, the text of measure, and then the explanatory statement, and then the legislative argument in support, an argument in favor, an argument in opposition. And for all these other measures, it's fairly short, just a few pages for all of that. But not on 114, oh no. Just the text of measure is several pages long by itself before you even get to the arguments. You see, there's more to it than just the permit thing. Let's see. Gun dealer means a person engaged in business, okay. Even if you wanted to buy a gun from your friend, say your friend's tired of hunting, say he's too old and doesn't want to hunt anymore, and so he's selling his guns, you still got to go through background check. That's another thing I want to bring up. I just briefly looked on a YouTube video about this measure because I've had debates about it on news channels, fake news channels. And first words out of someone's mouth was this will close the background check loophole. What loophole? There is no loophole. I have bought guns in all kinds of different ways, and since they've required a background check, I've always had to get a background check, no matter how I bought it or who I bought it from. My Ithaca 10 gauge, I bought that from a friend, from another hunter. Still had to go through a background check. So I had to pay someone else $50 just to do the stupid background check, plus the $10 for the background check. You have to pay the person who does the paperwork for the background check. You have to pay for the background check, and then you're paying for the gun too, And there's some places that want to actually put a ridiculous tax on firearms too. I don't even want to go there. Gun dealer shall, by telephone or computer, verify that the purchaser has a valid permit to purchase a firearm issued under Section 4 of this 2022 Act and request that the Department conduct a criminal history record check of the purchaser and shall provide the following information to the Department: Federal Firearms License Number of the gun dealer, business name of the gun dealer, place of transfer, name of person making transfer, make, model, caliber, and manufacturer number of the firearm being transferred, the name and date of birth of the purchaser, the social security number of the purchaser. If the purchaser voluntarily provides this number to the gun dealer, you know what? I wouldn't give it to him unless I had to. Social security numbers, when they first come out, were never supposed to be used for identification. I think it still should be that way. The gun dealer shall receive a unique approval number for the transfer from the department and record the approval number on the firearms transaction record and on firearms transaction thumbprint form. Anyway, there's like a whole bunch of little print here that I haven't even finished reading it all. It's ridiculous. Private transfer requires permits for private transfer. If I want to buy from Bob, my neighbor, or somebody, you got to have a permit for that. Which means you're going to have to go through a dealer, just like you would if you buy them from, yeah, I would have said Walmart, but Walmarts around here don't sell guns anymore because, you know, they're caves to the liberal snowflake types. Anyway, the transfer of firearm as part of a firearm turn-in or buyback event, they never sold them to us in the first place, in which law enforcement agency receives or purchases firearm from the members of the public, transfer a firearm to a spouse or domestic partner, a parent or step-parent, a child or stepchild, a sibling, grandparent, grandchild, aunt or uncle, first cousin, niece or nephew, and so on, so basically everyone. And there's also storage requirements in this measure. Oh yeah, of course, got to have the permits at gun shows. But I bought guns at gun shows, and you have to do all the background stuff at the gun shows too anyway, so there's no loophole. Let's see. A large capacity magazine is not inserted into a firearm and is locked in a separate container. Is this for storage? Oh, prohibitions, exceptions for large capacity magazines. Yeah, let's see. All manufacturing is completed no later than 180 days after the effective date of this act. So there will be a moratorium on manufacturing them. And the entity outside Oregon receiving a large capacity magazine is made aware of writing. So you have to send a letter and all that stuff if you're sending it to another state. They've got so many rules and restrictions in here. But the real end game, I think, is to make it such a hassle to have a firearm to where no one's going to want to bother, because it's just too much work. It's too difficult, and you're afraid you're going to break the law if you blink with your left eye or something. It's ridiculous. Oh, isn't that nice? They actually have a racial and ethnic impact statement on this measure. Can you believe that crap? That's really woke. My personal opinion, they can take that woke stuff and shove it. Anyway, I've seen it in here. They will require storage. You have to store your guns in a safe, and they have to be locked up. And the ammunition has to be in a separate location, But you know what? I would have one out for maintenance purposes. Maybe I'm working on one, like all the time. It's interesting because the arguments in favor, let's see, they start right. Can't buy racial and ethnic impact statement. I've seen it. Remember, just when I think I've seen it all, I've seen something else. Okay, the argument in favor starts, arguments in favor, the different one starts on page 68 and goes to, well, we're still going. Still going, page after page, until page 68, I said, clear until page 79. That's a lot of pages for this. That's a lot of pages for this. I can't think of anything that's had that many pages for arguments, and that's just in favor. The arguments in opposition start in the middle of page 79 and go to a quarter of page 85. I think that's a little lopsided, don't you? There's a hell of a lot more arguments in favor in here than there is in opposition. I don't think that's accidental. I think that's on purpose. So they want to make it such a hassle to buy a firearm that no one's going to want to. Except the criminals, of course, because they can get them without any of this crap. This will not do anything to stop crime. I am so tired of them saying there's a gun violence epidemic. There's no gun violence epidemic in this country. If you look at it, actually the number of gun deaths compared to cancer, heart disease, everything else, it's minuscule. It's hardly any. It's a handful compared to the others. Friggin' tobacco kills like 400,000 people every year in this country, in the United States of America. I'm not sure, I don't have the numbers on heart disease, but it's way up there. There's nowhere near that many gun deaths. And some of the gun deaths are not properly reported as such. And they don't report, they almost never cover the number of times a gun is used to save a life from someone else. Say someone's going to kill someone else, someone steps in, takes out the bad person. They almost never cover that. No, they all focus on mass shootings, which mass shooting in Oregon is anything, well, I think that's maybe nationwide, anything involving 4 people or more, I think. To me, that's not a mass, that's just a small group. Whatever. I'm not even sure they're all, some of them could be theatrics, who knows? There's no way to know for sure. But here's the thing that's interesting. Umatilla County, something we passed in the previous election here in Umatilla County, and there's other counties in Oregon that did the same thing as well. We passed, this is a sanctuary, a 2A sanctuary county. This and there's several others. So I wonder we're going to be putting it to the test if it does pass, because if you live in Umatilla County, you won't be required to comply with that garbage. It still may be harder than hell to get a gun. Just depends on who all is going to cave. You know, the retailers might cave because anything that involves state funding or anything, they're not going to want to lose their funding. And another thing too is with this training that's required, they don't say what the fee is, and they say that the officers are supposed to volunteer to do the training. What if they're too busy already? They'll never get around to it. Who knows how long it could take before you could even get your permit to go buy a weapon. So they could deliberately stall that practically forever. Oregon Measure 114 has got to fail. It's got to. A number of us are not going to comply if it does pass. Because the way in Umatilla County, anything that infringes on the Second Amendment is null and void. Period. And anyone from an outside county or state or federal that tries to arrest someone here for a law that infringes on the Second Amendment can be arrested under our law in this county. So I know I'm glad we're getting rid of the governor, but we cannot allow this to pass. We just can't. So it's been kind of a lengthy video for just covering a measure, but this is really important. So if you're in Oregon and you vote, or if you haven't registered to vote, please register to vote and vote against this. I mean, that's my suggestion. I'm not telling you how to vote. I'm suggesting that you would think about voting against this. I'm not trying to coerce anyone by any means. And this is an opinion video, and I'm sure YouTube disagrees with me. But hopefully they'll keep it up. Please hit the like so that I can keep the algorithm going, so I can keep the video up. Please subscribe. And thank you to my patrons who are not paying for this one. I'm not charging patrons for this video. This is a public service announcement. Seriously. Another thing, just think about it. They're trying to make Oregon like Illinois and other states that require a permit to have a firearm, to buy a firearm. And those places, their gun crime is rampant. It's through the roof. That's what this gun control does. It actually increases gun crime, because the criminals will always have the guns, and then the people who need to defend themselves will not be able to get them. So think about it. I don't want this place to be like those places. These people that say that Measure 114 is a gun safety measure, that's what they always push this as, a gun safety. It will, save lives and prevent gun violence. No, it won't. All it'll do is disarm law-abiding citizens so they can't defend against criminals. That's all it does. And I know someone will say, well, no, not if you pass all the checks. Well, in my opinion, a lot of this stuff is none of their damn business. They should not know, the government should never know how many guns we have or who has them, because that gives us the edge. We have to have the edge so we can control the government, not the other way around. When they know all there is about everything about us, they'll just come get the guns when they decide to, and they'll disarm us, and then they'll do horrible things to us, and all we can do is cry. That's how that works. It's the same kind of crap the Nazis used. That's what dictators use. They'll come up with these, well, it's a gun safety thing, for your safety. And then once you're disarmed and everyone thinks they're safer, they're not, because the governor or government, which is the big bad wolf in this case, will devour them, in a matter of speaking. So don't buy into the gun safety thing. It's not about safety. They don't even care about your safety. All they care about is their cushy little job they got. That's all they care about. Their political career. That's what it comes down to. It's always about the money that they make, the money that they get, the lush lifestyle they get to live. They don't get to live under the same rules that we do. That needs to change. But that's another argument altogether.